Mom. Should I say my last words? I love you. Mom. These were the haunting final words sent from a son to his mother aboard Jeonju Air Flight 7C2216. A flight that began with hope and routine turned into a story the world would never forget. Drop a comment and share where you're joining us from. If stories like this resonate with you, hit subscribe so you don't miss our next inspiring journey. The day began like any other. December 29th, 2024, painted the skies over Bangkok in soft hues of gold and pink as the sun crept above the horizon. Jeonju Air Flight 7C2216 was preparing for its routine journey to Muinju International Airport in South Korea. The aircraft, a sturdy Airbus A321, sat on the tarmac, its engines humming softly as passengers boarded with a mix of excitement and exhaustion. Among them was 25-year-old Ethan Lee, a software engineer with sharp eyes and a gentle smile. He had spent the past 5 days in Bangkok with a group of close friends, celebrating the holiday season in one of Asia's most vibrant cities. Their itinerary had been packed with unforgettable moments, visiting the Grand Temple of the Emerald Buddha, weaving through bustling night markets filled with the scent of grilled meats and spices, and laughing under the neon lights of Khao San Road. Ethan had taken hundreds of photos, capturing everything from serene temple courtyards to plates of colorful street food. Now, as he settled into his seat, he scrolled through those photos, smiling at the memories they held. Back home in South Korea, Sarah Lee waited eagerly. A single mother in her early 50s. Sarah had raised Ethan on her own after his father passed away when he was just a boy. Their bond was unbreakable, a relationship built on years of quiet dinners, heartfelt conversations, and shared laughter during their favorite TV shows. Sarah worked tirelessly at a small local company, ensuring that Ethan had every opportunity to pursue his dreams. Her phone was always close by, just in case Ethan decided to send her a quick message or a funny photo from his trip. On board the plane, the atmosphere was warm and peaceful. Parents quietly entertained their young children. Elderly couples adjusted their seatbelts, and solo travelers gazed out the windows as the Thai landscape slowly disappeared beneath them. The hum of the engines and the occasional ding of the seatbelt sign created a comforting rhythm. Ethan leaned back into his seat, letting out a soft sigh. Traveling had always given him a sense of freedom, a brief escape from the monotony of everyday life. Yet, even in his moments of exploration, home was never far from his thoughts. He had promised Sarah he would call her as soon as the plane landed in Muinju. As the flight attendants moved gracefully through the aisles, offering snacks and drinks, the captain's calm voice came over the intercom, assuring passengers of smooth skies ahead. Ethan glanced around the cabin. A toddler a few rows ahead giggled as her mother tried to distract her with a stuffed toy, while a man in a business suit typed furiously on his laptop. Everything felt normal. The passengers of Jeonju Air Flight 7C2216 were unaware that this journey, filled with mundane moments and quiet reflections, would soon become etched into history as a day of unimaginable tragedy. For now, however, the cabin remained calm, the passengers blissfully unaware of the storm that lay ahead. And somewhere in the skies over Southeast Asia, Ethan Lee looked out the window and whispered to himself, "Almost home." The sky was a brilliant shade of blue as Jeonju Air Flight 7C2216 cruised at cruising altitude, steadily approaching Muinju International Airport. The passengers, having settled into the rhythm of the flight, were beginning to prepare for the descent. Conversations were hushed. Headphones buzzed with music, and a sense of routine calm filled the cabin. Ethan Lee sat quietly by the window, gazing at the vast expanse of clouds below. His phone rested in his hand, the screen still lit with the last photo he had taken in Bangkok, a vibrant snapshot of his friends laughing over dinner at a bustling street-side restaurant. For Ethan, the trip had been a much-needed break. A chance to step away from his demanding job as a software engineer and reconnect with his friends. But now, his thoughts were turning homeward. He was already imagining his mother's warm smile as he walked through the front door. The flight attendants moved through the aisles with practiced efficiency, collecting trash and reminding passengers to fasten their seatbelts in preparation for landing. Alex, one of the attendants, exchanged a few friendly words with a young couple traveling with their toddler, who was now dozing peacefully in her mother's arms. Emily, another crew member, double-checked the overhead compartments, ensuring they were securely latched. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom, delivering an update in a steady tone. Ladies and gentlemen, we will begin our descent into Muinju International Airport shortly. Weather conditions are clear, and we expect to land on schedule. Please make sure your seatbelts are fastened and your tray tables are stowed. Ethan glanced at his watch. It was just past 8:50 a.m. The scheduled landing time of 9:07 a.m. was only minutes away. Outside the window, the coastline of South Korea began to come into view. A patchwork of green fields and urban sprawl framed by the shimmering sea. But then, something changed. A loud, sudden thud echoed through the cabin, followed by a violent shudder that rattled the overhead compartments. The plane lurched, and gasps filled the air as passengers instinctively gripped their armrests. Oxygen masks dropped from above, dangling in front of wide-eyed faces. A flock of birds had collided with the aircraft, striking its engines and damaging crucial control surfaces, including the flaps. The cabin was filled with a tense, suffocating silence, broken only by the hum of the struggling engines. From the cockpit, the captain's voice returned, now edged with a calm urgency. Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing technical difficulties. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened. Our crew is trained to handle situations like this, and we ask for your cooperation. Ethan's pulse quickened. His hand trembled as he unlocked his phone. Without thinking, he typed a message to his mother. Mom, should I say my last words? I love you, Mom. Around him, others began to do the same, sending messages, holding hands, whispering quiet prayers. Time seemed to slow, each second stretching endlessly as the plane struggled to maintain control. The flight crew worked with unwavering focus, following every protocol and safety measure in their training. But deep down, everyone on board knew they were in a fight against time, gravity, and fate. As the coastline grew larger in the window, the passengers of Flight 7C2216 braced themselves, hoping against hope for a safe landing. The final moments of Jeonju Air Flight 7C2216 unfolded in a blur of chaos and heartbreak. Approximately 8 minutes before the scheduled landing at Muinju International Airport, the plane struck a flock of birds, causing catastrophic damage to its engines and flaps. Despite the pilot's best efforts to stabilize the aircraft and attempt an emergency landing, critical systems began to fail one by one. The captain initiated the first landing attempt, but the damaged flaps made it nearly impossible to control the descent. The engines groaned under the strain, and the plane pulled up, circling for a second attempt. In the cabin, fear was etched onto every passenger's face. Flight attendants, including Alex and Emily, moved quickly through the aisles, urging passengers to brace for impact and remain calm. Ethan Lee clutched his phone tightly in his hand. The chaos around him, the flickering lights, the sound of rushing wind, and the muffled sobs of passengers faded into a dull hum as he focused on one thing: his mother. His thumbs hovered over the keyboard, and with a deep breath, he typed out a final message. Mom, should I say my last words? I love you, Mom. He hit send, his heart pounding as the weight of his words settled in. Nearby, another passenger, a young woman traveling alone, whispered as she typed her own farewell, "A bird is stuck in the wing, and we can't land. Should I leave my last farewell?" Her hands shook as she pressed send, tears streaming down her face. The cabin filled with quiet prayers, whispered goodbyes, and the soft glow of phone screens as passengers reached out to their loved ones. Every second felt stretched, every sound amplified. In the cockpit, the pilots fought desperately against the failing systems, trying to steady the aircraft for one final descent. But fate was relentless. The second landing attempt failed catastrophically. The plane, unable to maintain stable altitude or alignment with the runway, crashed short of the landing zone. The sound of metal tearing, glass shattering, and fire erupting filled the air as the aircraft broke apart on impact. Rescue teams were dispatched immediately, rushing to the scene with fire trucks, ambulances, and helicopters. Thick smoke billowed into the sky, marking the site of the tragedy. Among the wreckage, 2 survivors were pulled from the debris: Alex, a 33-year-old flight attendant, and Emily, another crew member. Alex was found unconscious, his left shoulder dislocated and a deep gash on his forehead. When he regained consciousness days later, his memory of the crash remained hazy, with only flashes of light and the sound of screeching metal lingering in his mind. Emily, though conscious, suffered from moderate to severe injuries, including broken ribs and deep lacerations. News of the crash spread quickly across social media and news outlets. Photos of the wreckage, combined with the haunting final messages from passengers, began circulating online. Ethan's text to his mother became a symbol of love and loss, resonating deeply with millions around the world. In the aftermath, the world paused to mourn the nearly 200 lives lost. Families, friends, and strangers alike were united in grief, holding tightly to the final words shared from the skies above Myunju. When Sarah Lee received the final message from her son Ethan, time seemed to freeze. The words on her phone screen blurred as tears filled her eyes, and her trembling hands clutched the device tightly. "Mom, should I say my last words? I love you, Mom." The weight of that message hit her with an indescribable force, a blend of fear, disbelief, and profound sorrow. She sat frozen in her living room, surrounded by the stillness of a home that would never feel the same again. As news of the crash spread, families of the victims began to gather at Myunju International Airport, desperately seeking updates. The sterile airport waiting rooms became spaces of collective grief, fathers weeping silently, mothers clutching photographs of their children, and siblings holding on to fragile hope. The sight of Sarah standing among them, clutching Ethan's phone in her hand, became a symbol of the unbearable loss shared by so many. The media quickly caught wind of the final text messages sent by passengers aboard Flight 7C2216. Ethan's message, in particular, resonated deeply with people across the world. Social media platforms were flooded with hashtags honoring the victims, and Ethan's words were shared millions of times. Other messages from passengers also began circulating online, painting a heartbreaking picture of the final moments on board. Public reaction was swift and powerful. Vigils were held in cities across South Korea, with thousands of people gathering to light candles, hold moments of silence, and offer prayers for the victims and their families. The image of Sarah, standing quietly at one of these vigils with a candle in hand, became a poignant reminder of the human cost of the tragedy. Beyond the emotional toll, the crash sparked widespread concern and outrage about aviation safety. Experts and commentators flooded news channels, analyzing the sequence of events and questioning whether the disaster could have been prevented. Social media became a space not only for mourning but also for demanding accountability. In response to the tragedy, Jeonju Air issued a public statement, expressing deep condolences to the families of the victims. The airline pledged a $1 billion compensation package to provide financial relief and emotional support to the grieving families. Additionally, Jeonju Air promised full transparency and cooperation with the ongoing investigation. The South Korean government also acted swiftly, declaring a 7-day national mourning period. Flags flew at half-mast across the country, and public events were either canceled or postponed in honor of the victims. Government officials visited the crash site, offering their condolences and promising a thorough investigation into the causes of the accident. Support extended beyond South Korea's borders. The Vietnamese government, in particular, expressed deep sympathy and pledged assistance to Vietnamese families affected by the tragedy. Messages of solidarity poured in from leaders and citizens of other nations, highlighting the global impact of the disaster. For Sarah and many others, the days following the crash were a blur of press conferences, condolence visits, and overwhelming grief. Yet, amidst the chaos and heartbreak, there was also an undeniable sense of unity, a collective resolve to honor the memories of those lost and to ensure that such a tragedy would never happen again. The world stood still for Flight 7C2216. And in that stillness, the voices of the passengers echoed louder than ever, reminding everyone of the fragile, precious nature of life. In the aftermath of the crash of Jeonju Air Flight 7C2216, the focus shifted from grief to understanding and healing. The wreckage site at Muinju International Airport became a center of investigation and rescue operations. Emergency response teams worked tirelessly, braving harsh conditions and emotional weight to recover remains, locate critical evidence, and piece together the final moments of the doomed flight. The investigation began immediately. Experts retrieved the aircraft's black boxes, the flight data recorder, FDR, and cockpit voice recorder, CVR. Analysts scrutinized every piece of information, from engine performance to the pilot's final words, hoping to uncover the precise cause of the crash. The bird strike was confirmed as the initial trigger, but investigators also focused on whether mechanical or procedural failures had exacerbated the disaster. Aviation authorities collaborated internationally, sharing expertise to ensure a comprehensive and unbiased analysis. Meanwhile, families of the victims endured an unthinkable reality. Sarah Lee, Ethan's mother, found herself navigating a world she no longer recognized. The home she had shared with her son felt unbearably quiet, every corner filled with memories of his presence. Despite the overwhelming grief, Sarah sought solace in connecting with other families who had lost loved ones in the crash. Support groups formed, bringing together parents, siblings, and children of the victims. Through shared sorrow, they found fragments of strength. Sarah also leaned on memories of Ethan, his warm smile, his love for technology, and the small ways he had shown his care for her. On quiet evenings, she would scroll through his old text messages, holding on to his final words, "I love you, Mom." They became a source of both pain and comfort, a bittersweet reminder of their unbreakable bond. Memorial services were held across South Korea, drawing large crowds who came to honor the lives lost. At Ethan's memorial, family and friends gathered to share stories, light candles, and read heartfelt letters. Sarah stood quietly at the front, holding a framed photo of her son. His final message was engraved on a plaque beneath his picture, a permanent reminder of his love and courage. For the survivors, the road to recovery was long and arduous. Alex, one of the two surviving flight attendants, faced months of physical therapy to regain mobility in his injured shoulder. The emotional scars, however, proved harder to heal. His fragmented memories of the crash haunted him, but therapy sessions and support from loved ones helped him gradually find his footing again. Emily, the other survivor, also battled through her recovery. Her physical wounds began to heal, but the psychological trauma lingered. Despite her struggles, she dedicated herself to supporting other survivors and grieving families, often speaking at public events to advocate for better aviation safety measures. The legacy of Flight 7C2216 extended far beyond the crash site. Communities came together to offer support, and stories of love, loss, and resilience resonated worldwide. Schools, workplaces, and public spaces held moments of silence in honor of the victims. For Sarah, Ethan's final words became more than just a text message. They became a symbol, a reminder of love's enduring power in the face of unimaginable loss. Every year on the anniversary of the crash, she visited a small memorial dedicated to the victims, placing flowers and whispering a quiet promise to her son, "I will never forget you." Through grief, remembrance, and collective healing, the story of Flight 7C2216 became not just one of tragedy, but also one of love, resilience, and the unyielding human spirit. In the weeks and months following the crash of Jeonju Air Flight 7C2216, Ethan Lee's final words, "I love you, Mom," transcended their immediate context and became a symbol of enduring love and resilience. The simple yet profound message resonated far beyond Sarah Lee's home, reaching hearts across South Korea and around the world. It reminded people of the fragility of life and the importance of expressing love openly and without hesitation. At airports across South Korea, a subtle change could be felt. Travelers paused for brief moments of reflection before boarding their flights. Some took extra time to hug their loved ones goodbye, while others sent quick messages of love and gratitude before turning their phones to airplane mode. The tragedy of Flight 7C2216 had become a somber yet powerful reminder of how fleeting life can be. Memorials were erected not only at Muinju International Airport but also in other key locations tied to the victims and their families. Each tribute carried the weight of the lives lost, and visitors often found themselves deeply moved by the stories shared by survivors and the loved ones of those who had perished. In homes across South Korea, families began to share meals with a little more intention. Conversations grew more heartfelt, and expressions of love became more frequent. The echo of Ethan's final words, "I love you, Mom," served as a reminder to cherish every moment, no matter how ordinary it might seem. For Sarah Lee, her son's words became a guiding light through the darkest period of her life. She dedicated herself to keeping Ethan's memory alive, participating in community gatherings, memorial events, and aviation safety awareness campaigns. Her quiet strength became an inspiration to many, and her story was shared countless times in newspapers, television broadcasts, and online forums. Ethan's message became more than just a text, it became a lesson. It taught millions to hold their loved ones closer, to speak their hearts freely, and to never leave important words unspoken. In the end, the tragedy of Flight 7C2216 left behind more than sorrow and loss. It became a collective reminder of life's unpredictability and the enduring power of love. It was a story not just about tragedy, but also about resilience, connection, and the importance of living each moment fully.
In the face of tragedy, Ethan's final words remind us of life's fragility. If you had one last message to send, what would it say? Share your thoughts and this story with others. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.